All right, everyone, and welcome to another Hubcast. And I know we missed last week, so I apologize for that. There's a good reason for it. I was down in Florida, right, from up here in Ohio, and at IASIS. So I saw a lot of great folks there that I haven't seen since last week. In the vendors and everything, we all based our seasons not off of spring, summer, fall, anything like that. It's conference season or it's not conference season. And this is kind of our spring of conference season is kicking all that off. So I got to see a lot of great people. And, I see CJ in here. I got to see him and hang out when we get to our guest because honestly, I'm a little afraid. So I'll be nice to him. I don't know what tricks are up his sleeves that he could possibly do. But I do want to talk about a few things. Now, everyone probably knows we were working on for Cyber Social Hub our apps, right? So the iOS one has been out about a month now. It's still working great. There should be an update coming either today or Monday for it. So make sure you update the app. There's a couple bugs that we've got corrected. Google Play, everyone kept asking me, where's the Android app? Where's the Android app? So for those of you who use Android, it is now on Google Play. It's live. It's been there for just over a week now. And it is the newest update. We put the new one up there. So use it. Let me know how it works. If something's buggy in it, please let us know. And make sure you go and check that out. So apps on Google Play and iOS for Cyber Social Hub. And for those of you, is there anyone has no clue what Cyber Social Hub is? And Megan, you're not allowed to answer that one. But if you don't have any clue what it is, essentially think of, so one of the biggest challenges that I had is when I was in digital forensics, working active cases, and it's where do I go to find resources? Where do I go find information? I had no idea, and I was from a smaller agency, and if we would have had this, 20 years ago now when I started, oh goodness, it's been a minute. It'd have been phenomenal because I could just ask a question. It's like, hey, how do I, what's the proper way to do this JTAG? Or hey, where can I go find great JTAG training? Or anything. Obviously, it's more than just JTAG. But it's just a resource for everyone to help everyone else in the industry. It's way too small not to, and it's constantly changing every day. And there's a better tool that'll do something, and there's a better technique to do something, or maybe someone finds a new artifact somewhere. It's all in Cyber Social Hub. You can ask. There's no guarantee of an answer, though. I want to be clear on that. But we're working on it to get you all of that fun stuff out there. So with that, next week, actually, we leave here on Sunday out of the offices here, and we swing down, and we're picking Megan up, and then we're going to be at Techno Security. Starting, we're leaving here Sunday, and we'll be down there Monday setting up. And if you've been to Techno Security before, and you're familiar with the reception area there or the registration area, we're going to be set up right there, and we have our entire studio that we're setting up there, and we're going to be doing live broadcasts, probably about 3 throughout the day. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I've snatched up a lot of people, including my guest who I'm going to bring on here right now, if I can find the right button. I'm going to let Andy, hey, welcome, Andy, talk a little bit about himself. Thanks for agreeing to this, or actually being voluntold that you're going to be on the show today, right? It's like, hey, you got to do it, man, or you don't get a paycheck. That's just the way it works, right?
Yeah, I've been volunteered a few times. Don't worry.
Yeah, it happens, right? I mean, you're former military or current in some aspects, right? So you're used to being told where to go, where to be, and just show up there and do that, right?
Yeah, I guess probably a combination of things. I joined the Royal Marines when I was 18. I made a decision to go into the Marines over here in the UK. It was deemed then as the kind of thinking man soldier kind of piece. Longest training in the Western world for sort of more regular, although they're considered elite kind of forces. So I spent my kind of growth years within there, and then went through reconnaissance, junior commanders, senior commanders, those kind of pieces, and then graduated into UK special operations under a group called Special Boat Service. So that's the equivalent of your DevGru or your SEAL Team 6, that kind of piece.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, spent a wonderful 10 years serving in there and working with multiple agencies until on an operation one night I got blown up, and that kind of ended my career.
Oh, man.
It's quite a positive experience, if I can say that in some ways. Aside from we lost a good friend of mine, Andy the Tramp Holtram. But outside of that, the way I got looked after, the way the sort of National Health Service, the surgical teams, and everybody kicked in and conducted what my surgeon, who's also a good friend of mine, terms as Frankenstein surgery. So, oh, there's something wrong. Well, you've got something else that we can use, and we're going to take that and put it in this area and just kind of patchwork quilt you back up. So, 24 operations later, they had kind of rebuilt my arm from all sorts. My back, my fingers, and my forearm were rebuilt from my hips and pieces like. I mean, it's all pretty good.
Yeah.
So it was and officially I'm part shark. So they use this stuff called Integra if you get quite injured, and they put that in because your body doesn't reject it like it would reject other items that aren't part of your own natural body. Clearly,
Really? And you said shark, right? Is that what you said?
shark, yeah,
Great
yeah.
goodness. So do you have like
So
tuna cravings or anything of that nature that randomly pop in there?
my cats attack me a lot.
Well, man, hey, thank you for everything you've done. That's absolutely quite the story, and I didn't know that part of the story at all. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know, uh, I tend to harass people way too much about things, so I'm going to come up with a lot of bad jokes about a lot of random things. But
Yeah, like
yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. As we move on here, hold on. Oh, someone's playing Jaws music there. So yeah, the Jaws is your theme there. If you see Ron here is commenting there. There we go, pop it up there.
yeah,
So
I'm definitely a bit of a shark fan as well.
nice. I think there's some DNA merging in there somewhere. Sorry, I keep hearing this chat popping off there. Oh, zing. Yep, even CJ's popping in on you. Well, fantastic. So with this story, I mean that's quite the amazing story. How in the heck did you get into digital forensics from you know at 18 years old signing into the Marines, Royal Marines, right? And then you know getting to where you're at now with Datigo.
Yeah, I mean it's the modern world, right? I mean, when I first joined the Marines, your kind of your technical limits were your communications pieces like that, your weapon systems, all those sort of pieces. And then as we graduated through, obviously the years went on. That was 1996. Moving forward, in 2005, I joined the sort of special operations group. And it's the modern day. Gone are the days where there's still probably mythology out there that everybody hangs around in boiler suits with Uzis down their belts and swings in through embassy windows. Good effort, SAS, when they did that. It was a long time ago. Operators now still need to be able to have all those skills, but on top of that, now there is just a multitude of skills. So individuals are Arctic trained, they're multi-weapon trained, they're satellite communication trained, and then all of a sudden, one day they turned around to us and said, "Oh, now you need to be forensically trained, like our law enforcement over here, SO15, the sort of counter-terror police, Scotland Yard." They all came in and we all kind of got together and decided how are we going to run a course that would normally take 30 weeks. And the kind of military organizations are saying, these guys are expensive. You can have them for 1 week. How are you going to achieve that? And that was on the wet forensics, so the prints, all those kind of pieces, and we managed it. But then it quickly became apparent that we were losing significant amount of intelligence at that point, and clearly evidence,
Mm-hmm.
by not being able to extract data in locations we were going where no one else could get to. You're there once, you've got an opportunity, a window of opportunity, and time was important as well, because like most investigators know, that data is more effective. The sooner you can get and answer those critical questions, the more effective your investigation will be. Or if we're looking at sort of people's psychology, right now what you've got on your phone, Kevin, and you could blag me all day long that you don't have this and come up with great backstories. If I suddenly plug something in and put it in front of you within several minutes and go, it's not really adding up, we're going to watch you crumble and your story change. So very quickly we realized we needed to do that. And of course, we're working really close with our brothers in blue, brothers and sisters in blue, and the grey, so the intelligence agencies and the police teams and things like that. And it was something we do really good here in the UK is organizations quite often will work together, and they'll work together well, and they'll share the kudos, or they'll lose out on the kudos to actually put someone away or save lives. So if you look at the Olympics, UK was probably one of the highest terrorist target threats over that period, I would suggest. And yet there was nothing huge in the press, certainly, about any significant attacks. One of the reasons was embracing technology, and the other one was organizations working together much better, sharing information, and potentially in some cases burning individuals. So they became aware that you were onto them per se on an intelligence level, but you couldn't put them away with evidence. But that meant that anything that they were trying to do at the time had been sort of pushed aside. So very quickly, we started getting to the point where we were requesting organizations to join us. And of course, where this conversation is going, more data, more devices, not enough investigators, lower budgets. You started finding even at that tier one level, you were asking for individuals from GCHQ to join you on a discrete op or on a more direct op, and it was happening sometimes, not happening other times. So we took a view late in 2008, I think 7, 8, to start our own program around how do we give ourselves an organic capability. We can still bring in all these masters, we can still bring in all these experts. That is absolutely the gold standard, but we actually need some capability to be able to, and that's where it grew from. So it started very kind of rudimentary, and then it's just grown and grown. And as we've reaped the rewards from that, putting individuals away, saving lives, all those kind of pieces, having operations go successfully, or what we would call the find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate, a kind of F3EAD cycle. That's all including your digital media pieces. As you start getting results off the back of that, everybody's starting to go, actually, this is amazing. We need to be doing more of this. And it becomes that cycle where it just fulfills itself. So gone are the days I would go into a class, certainly with the sort of older generation of special operations individuals, and you would see a mix. You'd see some people who want to be there, some people who are just professional and understand that technology is not going away. I need to understand technology if I want to claim to be a professional operator. And now it's got to the point where you'll sit there in a classroom with those kind of individuals, and they're sat there with bated breath because they know to be on the ball, to keep pace with the likes of your US SOCOM, the Swedish weapons intelligence groups, obviously the UK special operations, the Canadians, the Australians, all these kind of pieces. They're all going in that direction. And sometimes it's driven out of fear of missing out. Oh, I'm an organization, I haven't even thought about this. We'd always pull another group in to do it. We're not getting them. What are we missing? And then they'll do it that way. So yeah, it's kind of it's probably a long way around answering your question.
No, it is very descriptive of that kind of that cycle, how things happen. And that's one thing I noticed is because I used to travel over to the UK quite a bit to instruct when I was with another company, and that's one thing I noticed. All of your agencies seem to work pretty well together. Not like here in the U.S. where it's like, no, this is our information, and they tend to hide that from one another for being the ones the credit. So yeah, if you guys could teach us that, that'd be really great. Anytime you want to
Well,
bring that over.
it's kind of like this kind of sort of piece as well. Necessity is the mother of invention. It kind of forces you in that direction. Just like now, we're looking at what used to be the gold standard for digital forensics work versus where is that going now. It's just not possible. It's just not possible with the amount of data out there, the amount of investigators that are coming up. How do we utilize them much better forward to reduce the stress on our generally more seasoned investigators that tend to end up doing a lot of the more difficult. Of course, you can't teach experience, so right. That's got to factor into it somewhere. But I would get worked up when I'd walk into an organization and I'd see a 20-year senior digital forensic expert, and they're there imaging something, or they're doing some of the real basic pieces, and I'm going, you are a boffin. You walk into the room and the temperature rises by 2 degrees because of the kilojoules, your brain's kicking out. You should not be doing that. You should be using your 20 years experience, and you should be cracking the Enigma code kind of piece. So that's kind of part of the battle that we've been hopefully helping solve.
Right. And that's really where I saw all the information that, Datigo, um, all the different areas that you guys handle. And I'm going to kind of get to that piece in just a second. And I was like, what in the world would we call this? This hubcast. We tried to come up with a unique name for all of these, and it was really what you're heading on right there. That story you just told about how to kind of reduce some backlog and use the not as technical folks for, like you had said, the imaging, pulling that and using those 20-year veterans to actually get in there and, as you say, it crack the Enigma code, which I love that movie. That I watched that anyway, and it's how do we do that? What's a good way to properly utilize the resources we have, in labs or in agencies? Uh, do you have some suggestions or ideas? Because I have a feeling you may have taught this once or twice.
Yeah, well, I think initially it's education. Secondly, it's probably there's egos floating around everywhere as well,
Mm.
and there's also lack of budgets and there's lack of understanding normally from the command structure, be that in police, intelligence agencies, even commercial and uh, areas like that. So devolving that technology to the front line, in my opinion, is where a lot of it needs to go. So we're working with BOPATM under the Home Office here and several police forces to enable individuals who manage serious sexual offenders. So when they're going through their rehabilitation, they're put back into society. You might go in and do a 2 monthly check on them, have an interview, those kind of pieces. Well, there's technology all over that house, and they sign up to saying that you're able to access that. But in order to take all that technology back to a lab, add it to the backlog of, you know, other serious crimes, actual lifetime serious crimes, it just ends up in that huge backlog. So what we've been trying to do with these investigators is work with them to enable pre-programmed workflows, easy understanding, and then getting that technology forward so that if they go into a property that has 25 devices, maybe they're only securing 3 of those to come back. They've already got the live hits. A lot of that
Mm-hmm.
is around decent images of children, of course. We're fully embedded with Project Vic, a great piece from your side of the pond, really, but international. So we work with them. We have their AI built into our algorithm, and then CADE, it's called here in the UK. So we can actually deploy, 100 million plus known indecent images hashes on a stick forward. A basic user, let's call it, for want of a better word, can go into your device, access your device, plug it in, press one button, it runs off, it will go through your internet history and start highlighting if there's any keywords due to pedophilia, if you've been using the dark web, if there's any apps that you've been using that you shouldn't be using because you're in a rehabilitation program, for example. And then it can start running through those hash data sets to give us a 100% positive identification of a known indecent image and pieces like that. So it's then trying to, I think some of the blockers are potentially some of the seasoned investigators because it's my train set, it's my teddy bear, and I don't want to give it up. And I totally understand that kind of
Right.
action as well. But at the same time, it's the same individuals who are losing their hair and stressing out because they're working every hour of the day and they're feeling like they're not getting through the backlog and it's building up. It's kind of like, can't have it both ways. So we're trying to help organizations learn to separate that out, but uniquely trying to integrate the 2 areas. So within Datigo, it's got that easy use sort of frontline forensics, rapid triage, super rapid imaging, something we need to mention as well. But then at the back end, we've listened. So all of the high tech crime units we worked with that, were coming back saying, hey, we love the front end stuff. You've clearly had, feed ins from the military and those kind of organizations. It's already a step ahead of the tools that we're using in that triage capacity. When we come back to the analytical part, it needs to do more. So we absolutely listened and we started to build this thing called job queues. So now in the back end of Datigo, you can come in as a senior labs manager. You can get whatever piece of evidence it is. It doesn't matter whether it's come from a phone, a computer, a thumbstick, a drive, a drone, etc. And you'll just set profiles. So it might be counter-terror 1, it might be ICAC, indecent images of children, quick
Mm-hmm.
scan, and then you can load like 22, 23 really intensive, complex forensic tasks, and just let the hardware do the work for you. It'll go through it, process that, and then of course that's where you have to come in, do your investigation, and join those dots. So we're kind of blending those two sides together. And we're working with one European group, and the feedback there, it was the first time we'd done it. We'd run the rear end lab experts in with the frontline special operations team, frontline individuals, and run them on the same class. So you had the direct interaction, and the feedback from that was brilliant, because they were saying, right now we've got guys who are deploying in the field using this Datigo technology and some other bits, of course, and they're contacting us back in the lab when they come up with issues or something that's more complex. But we're using the same technology back here as well. We're just using it in a different way. We're going into the minutiae, going into all the advanced settings. But now we speak the same language, because I'm not having to take my head off and switch my other head on and start trying to problem solve that way as well. So yeah.
Right. And, I want to key in on something that you just talked about. And one of the things that I had set here to chat about was about some of the advancements at Datigo and how it went from essentially military, more tool, and now it's spread across. Is that a pretty accurate representation? And you guys took cues, and as you had mentioned, that your law enforcement or the guys in blue can see that, hey, this is clearly was designed here, but we need this type of information as well. So it seems to be an ever evolving type product to really get the best of all of the different channels. Essentially, like, hey, these guys are military, they need this type of information, they need it really fast. The guys in blue need this type of information, and you guys are actually listening to the folks out there in the field, what they need.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually given a talk at Myrtle Beach on you almost said it there, the best of both. So it's a combination of looking at what lessons did special operations in the military learn from the police, and vice versa. And they've both learned really well off each other. The obvious, easy examples from the military side across to the police was speed, ease of use, low cognitive strain when you're in those frontline roles, or you don't have 20 years experience behind you. And then the pieces that came from the sort of police side were making sure no stone was unturned, that you stick to the ACPO guidelines so that you're doing everything in a forensically sound manner. Used to be always a massive argument, and it still comes up now occasionally, not as much, between intelligence and evidence. And we took a view that we were going to try and have Datigo take everything in an evidential manner. It's just up to you. Do you use it for intelligence reasons, or do you do it, or do you use it for evidential? And that way, right, regardless of what you've done, you're covered, and automatically in the back there's kind of a full audit trail and all those kind of pieces. I mean, I think off one thumbstick, the audit trail is like 1,000 sheets potentially. So you send that to the defense once, they're not going to ask you again.
Right. Now, how did you make the transition? Now, obviously, we know about your injury, but how did you get to Teego into your role now? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I spent certainly the last 4 years of my job in the government, in the military part, was running the organisation under the director of special operations here, for what we call material personnel exploitation, all those kind of overt and all those kind of aspects built in. And within that, I've been using lots of technologies. So I had a team with me, a small team, and we were training them up to a very high standard across open source pieces, Wi-Fi attack, all the pieces, including lots of free open source technologies. And what we found as an organization, it was great. We were getting all this new toys, all this new traction, but then suddenly one of the key individuals would get promoted or move to another role, and our organization just lost 10-20% of its capability instantly. Or we couldn't pass that information or those capabilities forward quick enough. So if you had 4 individuals from the cell deployed, that was it. If a 5th job come up, it wasn't happening. So we were trying to find a way to have the rest of the organization use technology easy. So that's where I'd come to using likes of Datigo, pieces like that. There was an ex-intelligence agency individual working for the company at the time. I'd been working with him. He knew that I'd been badly injured, and I wanted to stay. I had 2 years left to my career. But technically, at that point, we came under the Naval Medical Board. So, of course, you're going in there from an organization that they don't necessarily really know a huge amount about. They're looking at medical documents that thick, and they're saying you can't possibly be in this organization, off you go. So at that point, Dave Kirk, the CEO and owner of Datigo, pulled me in, and we ended up having a conversation. It's 3 weeks before that, actually, and we ended up having a conversation. And he said, "Look, you've been a pain in our obvious for I don't know how long now, with demands saying you're not buying our product, you want this to improve, you want that to improve, then you buy it, and then you keep pushing us for more stuff." And he's going, "But actually, that's all great stuff. It's all gravy. We want you on the team." So I came in to head special projects and some sales at the time, run some training pieces like that, use my connections into those groups to do that cross-pollination between the police, the intelligence agencies, and the military. And then it just grew, and I became the sales director, and then the global sales director, and then just recently, past couple of months, into the managing director role. So it's really exciting times for us as a company, because I have skin in the game. A lot of my ex-individuals that I work closely with deploy with this technology. So I believe in it. My DNA's in it. I've been with Datigo 8 years. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. And I think our whole culture's changing as well. So as a company, we're trying to be better, more forward leaning, and all those kind of pieces. And it's just exciting times.
That's great. That's phenomenal to see that, and you're seeing this more and more with a lot of different companies in the roles of, they're really the companies, in my opinion anyway, that really are focused on their end user and the success of the investigator. They're bringing in people that's been there, done that. They're not relying just on a developer who's never been in the field for any role to try to create something. They're looking to people like yourself who have been there, to members of our audience and stuff, to hear about it. So that's great. Great job, you guys.
Yeah,
That's
we call
phenomenal.
that with we have a saying over here for that. We're going, it's like a lighthouse in a desert. It's super bright, but it's just no use. You can go to an organization, it can give you this box that does 100% of all the capabilities that you want it to do, but it's the size of a house, and you ask for something that you can carry across a border, or you can walk into someone's house or have as a kiosk on a desk in a police station and be usable. And I just can't even use that. It's no use. So having that interaction between the frontline users, the lab users, the super geeks, geek being a power word, that sit in a cave and doing what they're doing,
Right.
that's where we're excelling, because the actual, most of our developers know some of the end user stories, interact with some of the end users, and they get it. So by the time it comes to us to refine some of those areas, they've thought about a lot of these things, and then it just becomes that cycle again. It's really, really good.
That's phenomenal. That's really phenomenal. Kudos to you guys for doing that. Now, with the Teego, and hang on, I'm getting a little bit of feedback either from my ear, or is that on your
I
end?
think that's my side.
All right.
If my windows come in, then
No,
we're talking about CT stuff, and somebody's not liking it.
no worries. I've noticed here we're testing out. So if my volume's fairly low to most people, which I think it is, we're testing out our equipment that we're going to take to Myrtle, and I literally have it scattered all over my desk. I did the best I could not to hide it all. So we're just making sure it works, obviously, before we go down there and go live, which I'm dragging you on the show there, right? You and see if we can pull CJ on and
Yeah,
make
definitely.
make fun of him a little bit as well.
Well, I
And
think it's one of those busy. You said it. Just I think it was either when you came on or just before we came on. It's raining. There's all the events at the moment, and it's so horrendous having to go to Myrtle Beach, right? I mean, that's why all the investigators go there, and then I see them at night, and half of them are there with families, kids, and wives, and girlfriends, and it's just beautiful down there, and it's a great networking piece. You just come back from IASIS. We ran our first Datigo course at IASIS. Those guys are absolutely awesome. They're giving up their time for the cause. I live off a sort of 70-30 rule. 70% of what you do is genuinely for the greater good and good. You're doing pretty good ratio. 30% is selfish or self-fulfilling, but there's a certain natural element to that. What these guys are doing is probably in the 80-20 there, maybe 90-10. It is awesome. And then we're bouncing from there through the Sophic and pieces like that. So yeah, I'll definitely pop by your live cast. And I think I can't remember, you said something. I think you have like a little cartridge shell that
I have
you give
stuff
us.
for you.
So
Yeah,
I might.
and I have more stuff actually. Hold on, I'm actually reaching in my pocket because I've been carrying this around, so I didn't set it down and lose it in the chaos of things. And I kind of want to take it out of the wrapper here. It's we just got some new challenge coins in. Did I show it to you? I think I showed it to you during prep, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
And so I'll show it to you. It's still in the wrapper. Get it to focus on there.
Oh,
There it
there you
is.
go.
It says Digital Investigator on this side there. And then the other side is just our logo there. So very nice. I'm sure you probably have seen these maybe once or twice in your career. it's it's funny. My staff, right, non-law enforcement, non-military, most of them, all of them actually, they don't understand challenge coins in the slightest. They're like, whatever, you just handle giving those away. I'm like, all right, we can do that. So here is, I'm trying to look for the one that I'll give you. Oh, there it is right there. That's the one I would like to give you right here. So this little guy right here, you can see the A10 Warthog, a
Yeah.
little picture of it on one side, and then just to let you know that you appeared on the hubcasts here on this side. And yeah, it's an actual shell that was just the casing that's been fired out of an A10, 30 millimeter out of there, and comes with a little certificate, right, to show that it
That's
was
awesome.
fired out of there. Don't worry if it focuses back. Not depleted uranium, so it's just it's a training round, so you don't have to worry about growing a third eye or anything like that. So
Yeah, as I go through the airport, I don't set all the alarms off, right? Which has clearly happened a few times in my career.
you probably will. If you need us to ship it to you, I can do that. Because don't bring my name up in this mess. And it'll be all good. Yeah, I got a couple other things for you too. We'll give to you and CJ both when we see you down there. But I kind of want to swing back around. And you mentioned in all fairness to everybody, I'm no good at keeping the behind the scenes secrets of how we produce a show. We always try to ask a little bit about people so we get to know you a little bit. And surprisingly, even CJ did not give me any dirt on you. I think everyone's a little secretly afraid that you may get them back even worse, so they don't want to say anything.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty out there, probably.
I was looking for it. I didn't find it. So I
Well,
just
let's make some up at Myrtle Beach.
I gotta find some friends and then of yours, and I'm sure they'd be happy after a few drinks. They'd be telling me all kinds of stories. Uh, but what kind of things, you've had an interesting career, and what kind of things do you do to help decompress? Right. I mean, you just mentioned your travel, schedule earlier on, or it may have been pre-show. It all runs together, and you're running from place to place to place to place to place. And what kind of things do you do just to kind of decompress? Not related to forensics. You're not allowed to mention forensics in this part of it. So
That's impossible. Everything relates to forensics.
right,
But
that's true.
yeah, no, I mean, there's lots of things. I was heavy into martial arts when I was a kid. It's the past, little while I've not been able to get into that so much because work's just been crazy.
Mm,
And but I'm a total sci-fi geek. I love my movies. That's my Zen palace. If I need to try and turn my brain off, then the louder the surround sound system is, and the bigger the TV, and
right.
the larger the beer or glass of wine in my hand, then the better it is. So yeah, you'll quite often find me zoning out that way. I'm a bit of a girl. No offense to any ladies out there, but I love to sit in a bath or a hot tub and sit there with my audio book in and a glass of wine and kind of. I'll convince myself that I'm going to do one book that's brain food. So super interesting, Seven Habits or Black Box Thinking, and then I'll do a junk brain food book. So no suing me here, but a McDonald's for the brain, and I'll be like listening to Byron Huggins or some kind of adventurous David Gemmell fighting fantasy kind of novels because they always remind me of some of the characters I've worked with, fallen heroes and stuff like that. They're trying to do good, but there's little bad sides to them too, and all that kind of stuff. So I do a lot of that to kind of zone down, chill out. I love fast cars, typical boy in that sense, I guess, and I've got a new Rhodesian Ridgeback dog. He's awesome. So he's 6 months old and
Wow.
30 kilos now. So he's a bit of a beast. So it's those kind of things that chill down. But I think it's important. And something else we're finding is we do outsourcing for law enforcement when they're maxed out with their backlogs, and we're using
Mm-hmm.
junior individuals who are growing up through this phase. And there's a decompression element there, not just for military individuals and pieces like that work at high intensity, but the indecent images of children, the
Mm.
CSAM, the
Yeah.
individuals that are doing all this stuff. It's a huge, huge stress on an individual, and making sure that they as individuals have time to break away from that or talk about it or understand it. And there's been a sea change, an absolute sea change over here, in certainly in the sort of higher echelons of the military, for being open, pink and fluffy, we call it, open with your feelings, able to discuss stuff, because it makes you more professional, it makes you better.
Yep.
You can share that with the individuals, and if you've got nothing to prove, it's not hard to have those conversations as well. So that helps detune you. So there's definite synergy there with individuals that work on those cases, and God bless all the individuals that do work in the ICAT cases.
Yeah.
And there has to be a breaking point there where you need to, you've done your bit, you've given more than your soul to that. Step away now, move into another zone, let somebody else come through that, and thanks for protecting our children.
Yeah, it's terrible when they have to look at even one image is too much. I mean, it affects you. And I'm glad. I guess I'm not. I don't want to use the word glad, but I conducted those kind of cases before I had children, right? Because if I had to do those cases now with 3 kids, I don't think I could get through a case. I think I just, get furious and whatnot. But to kind of to go to your decompression, we're big geeks here as well. Obviously, I have I have the the Mandalorian's helmet here, and it was funny when I was down at IASIS. Went to the Star Wars land. Are you a Star Wars fan at all?
Yeah, of course.
We'll bring out all the nerd stuff out of there. So my family, as a way early Father's Day gift here in the States. I don't know if Father's Day is the same day in the UK. Or you guys even have such a day? We tend to make up every holiday. Um, and they sent me to this experience where I got to build a lightsaber as part of the experience. I have it over here. I don't want to be too nerdy and actually pull it out of there, but it was such an awesome experience. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, if you need to decompress, go and build a lightsaber. That will definitely help you. So
yeah. Well, I'll burn up another 30 seconds with my best joke that I've
yes,
got. I've got
do.
a Star Wars joke. So Darth Vader's there and he's talking to Luke. And he's like, it's Christmas time, and they sat around the tree. He's like, Luke, you have to excuse the bad impressions. I know
I
what
like it.
I know what you're getting for Christmas. Luke's like, no, Father, you cannot know. And he's going, I felt your presence. That's all
Sorry,
I've got.
it
That's all I've
took my brain a minute, but I got it. Yeah.
got.
That's great. And just so you know, if you don't see any reaction from the audience, we're about 15 seconds into the future from them, so they'll start laughing here in a couple seconds. Maybe if it was really bad, then you'll get complete crickets out of it. So, yeah, there we go.
I'm not the biggest on the ha-ha meter for this.
So there we go. So even Megan comes up with her own Star Wars reference there. Those are the puns you're looking for. Love it. Very good. Very good. Indeed. All right. Hey, I want to talk a little bit though. We've kind of alluded and we've talked about Datigo a little bit. There's a lot of people that may not have heard of you, believe it or not, on planet Earth. Even though our industry is really small, there's a lot of folks that don't get out to trade shows. They're not up on the latest trends, and you guys have been around for quite some time now. Starting to make your emergence in the U.S. How many years ago have you guys been kind of shining here at the shows?
Well, I mean, Datigo sort of first raised its head in 2003, but because of the way it was built as a sort of boutique British company, and it was quite under the radar and what it was doing with the organizations were much more sensitive. Anything around collecting data or doing phones in the military side everything was class TS all over the place. And then suddenly everybody realized, well, hang on, the guy down the phone shop's doing that every time he's, switching in his old phone and wants to transfer the stuff back in the old days that way kind of piece. So that's kind of where we hit with that, and then it started to grow, and we went through a phase of expanding out into the US. Now we've been with SOCOM. We're on program of record for SOCOM, which is probably one of our biggest client. So that's there's I don't know if I'm allowed to say numbers as in the amount of investigators because it might be sensitive information, but there's there's hundreds and hundreds of them out there using Datigo all the time, spread across the globe, with a complete variation of expertise from basic user through to advanced user, your ICAT teams, your DHSs, your OIGs, all those kind of pieces. So it's really starting to grow into these areas. But you're right, we were kind of that unknown company. We've come out of nowhere and we've started to get this great traction. And I think some of it is there's a certain group of companies out there, I think, that have quite a negative feeling sometimes in regards to working with clients or listening to the little man. And then you've got another group that feel a particularly forward-leaning kind of piece. And we've ended up partnering with a few of these groups and pieces like that. And we definitely want to give back. So we're trying to, as much as we're trying to grow, we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to listen. We're doing pieces like, obviously, we're gold sponsoring at IASIS and giving out lots of the software. There's a program that I can't talk about right now, but we're going to be releasing in the future for law enforcement and pieces like that around technology gifted and pieces there. So
sneak peek.
Really headed in the right direction.
Yeah, very, very good. You had mentioned that, that you're making this emergence, and it's funny when people talk about that. You've actually, most companies that I'm aware of have been working behind the scenes in kind of that low profile mode for a very long time. But now you guys just, in my view of going to the shows here in the U.S., kind of exploded within the last, I don't know, 4 or 5-ish years that we're starting to see everywhere. And I thought it was just because you guys hire these like big muscle bound sales guys.
That's funny. We've been accused of that a few times with some of the different guys. I haven't been going to the gym, by the way, but yeah, CJ's fairly stacked. JP that we had previously, he was obviously a huge unit. No, it's simply because clearly the US is huge, right?
Right.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Leaders in this kind of piece, and where we'd come in from another angle. We patented lots of technology, so unbelievably, we managed to patent something called Ballistic Imager, which is the world's fastest forensic imager. So one of your government departments imaged a 1 terabyte laptop in under 8 minutes. That wasn't us. That was them. So we've got all the logs and pieces there. So that really broke the bank in regards to people paying attention to us. And that goes back to what you said earlier. It's the super geek sat in the cave with the kind of frontline users. We had a discrete operation from a UK group, and the individual was in the house discreetly at the time. No specifics here, so it's clear to talk about. And was obviously imaging a device that needed to remain where it was and have no trace that anything had been done. So in the dark, while someone else is putting technical in, they're going through, they're removing the drive, they're putting all the screws on their magnetic casing, they're trying not to knock anything over, they're hoping the drive's not soldered in, they're hoping there's no holographic stickers anywhere, all that kind of stuff, stressing, sweating, doing that, to then just get it out, plug it in a cloner, to then get it cloned, to then put all that back together, or bring an expert in that does that but isn't used to creeping around in the dark and starts knocking everything over. It's like epic. So the individual came back and kind of put a report in and said, look, I don't understand it. I'm looking at this machine and I can see 3, 4, 5 ports on it. Can I not simply just plug stuff into every port, click a button, and it fires data out as fast as it can across every single port, and then I'll rebuild it later into a forensic image with a hash match? So that's where the intelligence and evidence thing was kind of covered off, because when we first released it, there was no hash matching. It was just, we'll grab the full bit for bit copy of the machine, and off you go. The particular user group were using it for intelligence, and then suddenly everybody else going, oh, that's amazing, we need some of that, but we can't use it because there's no forensic hash. Right. Awesome, thanks for telling us, we'll stick a forensic hash on it. So that's where that grew out. So that was a live case of an actual operator feeding back, and then the company doing that. And would you believe it, no one else had done it. So no one at that time had gone to multiple ports on a computer and pushed data out across multiple. So that was then patented, granted US, UK, and multiple global areas, which was phenomenal. And then we built on that with the triage. So we went, everybody back then was kind of like, image gold standard, must get whole image, must investigate whole image. And we're like, yeah, brilliant. Doesn't always work that way so much now, but we want to give you belt and braces on everything. We're kind of like the Swiss Army knife, the high-tech crime unit in a bag. So you get there and you go, oh, I don't have time for the image, or I can triage these 5 devices. And then we patented an early alert system with red, amber, greens. If came up with known indecent images of children, or key pieces for a basic user. It's traffic light system, nice and easy. You understand it, you know what's going on. If I'm the advanced investigator, I can get right into the minutiae. It's absolutely awesome. Then we started doing things like going, well, we need the mobile, so we partnered with MSAT, we partnered with Hancom, we started pulling in data from the UFEDs, doing link analysis across all those, that job queue piece to try and help the investigators in the labs. It's just been awesome. But you're right, there's so much now in what something that started off so simple, so purist. It's just grown and grown and grown. So we're going through these phases now of optimizing and making sure that it stays, effective in all those areas and doesn't lose what made it unique on that front line, but gains everything it needs to do in the rear place for the labs. And I think we're pretty much there now, although everything obviously moves on. So
yeah, yeah. And if with all that now, I'm gonna really put you on the spot, Andy. So yeah, if you had to pick essentially your favorite feature, the favorite thing within your suite of tools, what do you think that would be?
oh wow, what, just one feature?
One. That's all you get. No, no more.
I'm like a bag of dolly mixtures. I love dipping in there and pulling all the different features out. But I mean, the Imager was a game changer for some of the discrete operations and pieces. I mean, just an absolute game changer. Going from being sat there imaging for a couple of hours and all the epics around taking something apart, that was phenomenal. I think one of the more recent pieces that have hit a lot of the law enforcement and groups and certainly the fraud teams is we were one of the first to bring in the optical character recognition and in multiple languages. So like when I'm caught speeding and they capture my number plate and suddenly a letter turns up at the house, it's like that on steroids. So essentially you can scan all the documents, your videos, the frames of the videos, and if you're looking for keywords or anything within that, pulls it even in foreign languages, and it can translate from 270 languages offline without touching the internet for an investigator quickly. So again, maybe you were sat in a hub and you needed to pay 100, 150 would probably be even good, pounds an hour for an interpreter to come on the phone because you just want a quick bit of information on this PDF that's on your system. You can't reach out to Google or whatever. Well, now you can do it all there and get the gist of that. So that's kind of the new wave that's coming in. So that wasn't really one feature, but I'm really struggling not to talk about another 20 features. That it's just it's like you. It's like most of the guys that we speak to, they don't know Datigo, right? They come over to the booth like saying, they go, "Hey, what's this Datigo all about?" I might have heard something about the imaging, and then we show them everything it can do: the OCR, the AI, the optical character, the photo DNA, the first generation image detection, the jihadist symbology detection, the link analysis, all this kind. And they're like, "What? Where did this come from?" And I wish I had this in my backpack 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because I tell you, there'd be a lot more successful operations or a lot more bad guys and bad girls, etc., all behind bars. So, and that's so rewarding. That's so pleasing to hear that and to be part of that. And of course, I get feedback, including the bad feedback when it comes, but we adjust to it. So, that's
right.
part of the game.
That's how you get better. Absolutely. And CJ's also listing stuff out down here. I see in chat. He's like job queue, automation, and a whole lot of the stuff in there. So yeah, if you guys haven't, out of the audience, I'm just curious if anyone has seen Datigo, has actually looked at it, or maybe even use it right now. Make a comment in the chat right now, so the guys know that you're using it, or if you're interested. I know CJ's more than willing to talk to you to show you some things out of it. It's pretty impressive, guys. If you have never seen it, you really should kind of take a peek at it. But you guys really focus on a wide range. I know we hit this on the early on. I kind of want to swing back to our original topic. Here is, it's kind of for the lack of skilled experts in the digital forensic field. That's an issue, right? There's a clear issue with that. How can those folks really help the larger mission, say, pulling evidence or whatever? How can those individuals still be able to contribute?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of pieces there. One is that frontline individual piece. So Datigo is scalable and it's usable from that frontline through to the back. That's the purpose now. So if I'm sat in my lab as the deep dive investigator and I've got that backlog, I can plug it into our job queues and have 10, 20, 30 investigations all running at once, all of those running 20, 30 job queues, it's only limited by your hardware setup. The software is pretty much stellar. But then if I devolve the technology forward, then it's utilized in a stripped down manner. So the imaging, the triaging, nice, simple red, amber, green alerts to that frontline investigator. So then it's a more selective. Instead of bringing a big bag of 20 devices back to the lab, you're now bringing 10. And then at the lab side, we're helping the high tech get through 5 of those almost in a completely automated way. And then 5, yeah, you need the experience. You're going to deep dive. You're going to go into that. So it's splitting it across those areas. And some of the problems we've had is individuals going, oh, yeah, well, at the front end, you shouldn't be able to make decisions and pieces like that. And what if they have to go to court? And what if they then have to explain what's going on? They don't have a degree. They don't have 20 years of digital forensic expertise under them. So we've taken a view on some of that to give people like a driving license. So we'll go through for the basic kind of frontline courses, stay in your lane, a term I used, gained from the US quite a few times. And
right.
it was, so you now have a driving license for doing forensic triage, imaging. Don't really want to call it the basics, because we can teach all this in a couple of days, but it used to take weeks. So it's phenomenally complex pieces that are happening. We're just making the technology make it easier, and you now know how to put it in gear. You know how to accelerate and reverse, indicate, get your lights on. But if somebody asks you how does the CPU in the car work, or the engine maintenance, it's where you pull the expert in. So then the expert can cover that piece off. What we're finding is sometimes it's organizations and governments aren't catching up with technology. So they're still using really archaic policies or doctrine that just hasn't caught up with where the world's going and what we need to do. And one of my fears was always, if we need to look at every single bit of data on every single device because we're worried we'll miss something, that obviously is a threat, right? Because that could be a kiddie, or it could be something counterterrorism related, or a ticking time bomb, God forbid, any of that kind of stuff that's going on there. But at the same time, if that's sat in a backlog for 2 years now, a year, 6 months, whatever, and we could have got enough to put individuals away on that frontline rapid triage, the risk is kind of switching. Because if you don't do that, and you don't go into and you do go into the deep dive on every single piece of evidence that comes back, then you're actually building the backlog of individuals out there that are at risk in the short time. And it's almost like triaging technology. You can triage your process. So just because you go through something once doesn't mean you don't swing back round or have the quick win analysis up front. So the scanning, detection, alerting, and then you have the deep dive analytics, or the AIs and the password cracking, and anything that takes more G's running secondary to do that. And then you swing back round to it that way as well. So it's each to their own. It depends how organizations work. And we're finding things changing across all the different groups. From that gold standard needing a full image through to the triage. Some countries still don't allow triage even, although we're aware that their laws are looking to change, etc. So it's an interesting time for this kind of battle, if you like.
Yeah, you've covered, like, I had a list of questions, and pretty much that one thing covered them all. You just walked right through everything. So I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, I'm having some volume issues. If anyone in the audience noticed, like, Andy's volume drop for a minute and then pop back, let me know, see if it's on our end. I want to make sure that's corrected. But we did catch it all. And I completely forgot to let the audience know in advance. If you have a question for Andy, please go ahead and ask it at any time. Just put like a Q colon in front of it, and I'll do a quick sample here so you guys can kind of see what it should look like, and then ask the question here. Just put a Q in front of it. That way I don't lose it. Megan said the audio did drop out, but it came back, so that's thank goodness.
Now,
Yeah, everything's seemed to be good.
It's technology. I'm not a developer and that kind of bit, so I'm not going to get in the bits and bytes with you. But when I float around technology, it seems to go wrong. So every time I jump on Teams, it decides to kick me out of one mic and put me into another mic and pieces. I know we're not on Teams now, but as one example. So yeah, I must have something magnetic in me as well.
It's the shark. I blame the shark completely. It's something to do with that's affecting electronics for sure. Yeah, I think it's just Teams. Teams hates me as well. Absolutely. Yeah. So again, you're headed to and again, I don't expect you to have all of the information, and maybe CJ can pipe in and help out a little bit. I'm sure he has some of the information. What are some of the places that someone can find you guys at a show? Now, obviously, IASIS was last week or earlier this week for, yeah, anyway, it was both weeks, really. And then Techno Security is coming up starting on Monday through Thursday. And where else can someone see and find Datigo at a show?
Yeah, well, shows we're running at globally, and so here in the
Yeah.
UK, it's Security and Policing is one of the main shows over this side. If you're looking for a trip over the pond, in the US, clearly we're at SOFIC, we're at all the techno securities, or the IASIS, National Computer Institute have taken us on, and that's an amazing piece as well. They've taken on the training in the class, and they've got 111 of those super rapid images that are rolling into their training, and then the way that they work, for those that don't know, and this is amazing for the US, is they get granted money, they buy technology that's going to help people up front, and then train them on it. You go in as a course sponsored, or however it is your government agency. You rock in, you do the training, you walk away with all these licenses for the technologies that they've identified as being key, and then you take them out
Oh,
to your
yeah.
organization, and it spreads exponentially like that. So
So
we've come to
it's
groups like that as well.
NCFI, right? That's the is NCFI. Is that what it is? The Secret
Yeah,
Service down
the
in
Center for Forensic Institute or something,
yeah,
computer forensic.
National Computer Forensic Institute. Yeah, I used to teach down there. Great. If
Yeah, yeah.
for those people who haven't heard of that, and I wasn't aware Datigo was part of that. So congratulations for
It's literally only just like IASIS, and that's where we're coming out with, we're kicking in with the right people,
nice.
and they're seeing that we're trying to do the right thing, as well as having great technology and that kind of piece, and that synergy coming together, it just makes sense, right?
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah. So for the end investigator, it's phenomenal down there because they get a copy of the software. They get the solution to it, right? So and you get to use it firsthand and to use it every day in your cases. So no, that's great deal. Congratulations, guys. That's a big step. That's like when you know you've really made it is when you're included in those courses. And so congrats. Very
I think
awesome.
the biggest step for us in the US was, again, it was sort of 3 years ago, the program of record for SOCOM. Your US special operations are all
Hmm.
over the world, and it's quite complex how you run with all of the different organizations and tier groups within that. And we'd sort of come in as this just complete unknown. There was already an incumbent technology that had been bedded in for years and years. And then, yeah, they took one look at what we were doing, our attitude and pieces like that. And that was us. We came in, lots of testing, lots of uh, validation that went on, and then we've been renewed for the last three contracts. So that's really good. Sweden, we've never lost a client. How's that? We've
It's unheard
anybody
of.
that's ever taken on, although it's compared to some groups out there, it's small numbers,
Yeah.
but any client we've had within Sweden, we've never not had a renew, or we've never not had them come back to us or expand what they're doing. So stuff like that is just awesome. And we've been to, I don't have the list to hand, so forgive me, but it's been at least 15 shows since the up until June, spread over the multiple
Oh,
pieces,
wow.
which for a small group, we're throwing our money back where our mouth is and getting out there, because we've realized that people do need to know who we are now. We do need
Hmm.
to be overt. It can't any longer sort of remain under, or you can't, and that's where you have that kind of rule, right? It's, you want to do great stuff, but you've also got a certain amount of business responsibility and company responsibility from a financial perspective. So you're looking at both sides of that and trying to juggle it in the right way. And I think we're doing a real good job of that. And I'm just glad that it feels like we're hitting it out of the park, and it's singing with all the right people. So if you haven't, as Kevin said, know who we are, look us up, Teego.com, Datigo Global, and find us at the events. Come and ask what we're about. Come and see some of our talks. Hit me or CJ up. Ask us for live demos. We do that all the time. How we can help your organization, bits like that. And it might be that you like some of our technology. It might be you've already got technology that's in that space that you prefer, and because we're like a modular set of systems and pieces like that. But yeah, it's just reach out to us, because we're keen to make a difference, really,
Yeah.
genuinely.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, phenomenal. It's the growth. I've been watching the growth of the company, and it's just great. And you know, and I have to give a shout out. I am sorry, but the marketing teams never get any credit, right? Your marketing team, by the way, Andy, Bud and James, and I know I'm going to miss a few people over there. Phenomenal to help get this set up. So yeah, big kudos to those folks over there. They're really on the ball. So that's my wish to them. Maybe they'll get a raise out of it, maybe not. But anyway,
Thanks
well,
for that.
we'll give them a shout. And of course, CJ, who's down here. I've known CJ a few years. Seen him at shows, met him. I think was it last year? I think CJ, something like that. And Andy, I don't know if we've ever met. I noticed though on LinkedIn we were already connected somehow. So I'm like, we had to have met at some point somewhere.
Most likely. I mean, I'm really good with faces in general, and then names I'm not so good with half the time now. I'm going to put that down to having my head rattled a couple of times. But like you said right at the beginning, and this is something else that we believe in, it's a small community. The
Mm.
world is small now. Data is getting bigger, devices are getting more complex. The community of investigators, although is growing overall, in ratio to what's happening out there, it's massively shrinking. So we've all got to share the love. We've all got to spread the love, all that kind of piece, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. So I definitely would have rubbed shoulders with you or bumped into those pieces, but now, now I can actively come up and really abuse your hospitality.
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, please do. Absolutely. So I think I put a link, and I may have put the wrong link down into the website. It's a unified. Yeah, I got the right one. It's down in the description here of this. If you guys, those who are watching right now, if you kind of scroll down there and look, there's a link directly to their site, so you can go and learn a little bit more. And these guys are also in Cyber Social Hub. So, come in there, check everything out that they have to offer. We've been, I know we did a webinar a few weeks back with you guys as well, obviously today. And then we're going to talk to you again live next week on the Cyber Social Hub. They're live at Techno Security. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Man, I'm looking forward to see what you guys have next to come out with, because you've kind of hinted about some things here today that you really can't talk about yet. So maybe after a few beers, next week I'll be able to to get it out of you of some of the stuff that's coming up. Andy, thanks so much. I want to be respectful of your time. I know it's a couple minutes past, and thanks so much for coming on the show again. When I see you next week, I'm going to make sure I give these things to you, and yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff up here. I don't have time right now to show it to you. But are you a coffee drinker, or since you're across the pond, or is it more tea for you?
Well, tea in the morning, coffee. If I don't drink more than 10 cups of coffee in a day, there's something probably wrong. I mean, it's 8 o'clock here in the UK on a Friday night, right? So, although I've got coffee here, I know there's probably a Tinto downstairs. So, yeah, I'm probably going to head that way, and then I'm traveling out your side of the pond Sunday morning 05. So, yeah, looking forward to that. And just to sort of add there, absolute respect and thanks to all the investigators out there across all the different skill sets, whether that's indecent images, counter-terror, police, military, corporate investigations, all the bits that are out there. Please reach out to us. We are here to help. We are a company, of course. There's a commercial aspect, but at the end of the day, we're trying to do the right thing, bring an innovative technology forward, and we're listening. So if you want to, you want to be involved with a group like us, then please come and grab us.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't say it have better myself. So, Andy, again, thank you so much. Hang around here. Don't go anywhere yet. But everyone else, thank you. And again, keep an eye open for us. We're going to be at Techno Security all next week, broadcasting all of the shows live. We're going to try to do 3 every day. And one of those are going to be with this guy, whichever side he's on here. I'm pointing wrong. We're going to drag him onto the show as well. So, guys, thanks very much. Take care. Andy, stay put right there. And we'll see everybody next week.